Good morning! You joined me in the Rover Tomcat, which was last seen at Bromley Pageant of Motoring on the Hubnut stand, which was a nice day, wasn't it? Well, this is mostly a video about me welding a new floor into the boot of the Mercedes w123. But in order to build tension, I'm starting with a MacGuffin all about the Tomcat because it is due for sorry, just in the Pride police car, 'cause it's Pride weekend in London. They're quite funny. This car actually ran out of MOT over the weekend, and I meant to get it MOT'd last week but completely forgot. So it's now Monday morning and I'm driving directly from, well, fairly directly. I'm driving as directly as you can whilst building heat in the catalytic converter. Level crossing, this does not like level crossings. But the new camera mount does. Aha. Those of you who've commented on the shaky cam on a few previous videos, that was a very small Ariflex mount redesigned for GoPros, and putting the Fuji on it was a bit heavy, so I've gone back to the old Manfrotto proper suction mount, which is a bit of a beast but is much sturdier. Anyway, I'm digressing. Yes, I'm doing a quick MacGuffin to build tension. This is going for its MOT. Normally I would traipse over to Trevor's garage in Westerham, but I just haven't got time to get there this week. So I'm going to my local MOT place, which are very good. They're nice guys, I trust them, but they're not really equipped to fix cars that are a bit out of the usual, a bit different. So I'm hoping it's all alright, because I've not checked it since Bromley, when I fitted new wiper blades on the front because they were knackered. All the lights seem to be working back then. The brakes are good, the handbrake, everything's been renewed. In the last 5 years or so, almost everything mechanical on this car has been overhauled or renewed in some way, so there's really no reason for it not to be working. The only thing that worries me is if it's an emissions-based problem. If it's an emissions problem, then they can't do a thing about it, because they can't plug a diagnostic in there and they can't diagnose a failed sensor. But that said, the car's been running fine. It's been running a bit cold on the motorway, but I think that is a common trait of these 2 litres. I'm trying to build warmth into the engine. I'm stuck doing 25 behind a Skoda taxi, who I'm guessing is trying to save as much fuel as possible. The temperature gauge is creeping up to normal. That's the thing, I'm going to drop it straight in for the MOT. And you want the engine to be a good temperature, so it's, you know, all running optimally. Now, someone did say to me on the comments after the Bromley video, the reason this chair is squeaking is because the frame is basically starting to come apart, which is a bit worrying. Can't blow some cobwebs out, and I can go straight on the ramp, and hopefully it'll do all right on its test. This car now has 130,937 miles on it, which for a pushing 30-year-old Rover, 26-year-old Rover, is a fair few miles, but apart from the crashy suspension I fitted and this creaky seat, it's doing alright still. Well, let's hope I'm not going to eat my words in about an hour's time. I can't bear to watch. I'm going to go get a coffee. Jason was at Vauxhall Omega from the video last week. He's off work today. He's going to meet me for a cup of coffee at Starbucks. So I'll see how bad it really is in a moment. Wish me luck. So I've been having a bit of a grind-a-thon on the old Merc 230e. And what I've found is that the rust isn't really much more extensive than what I uncovered the other day. So I'm going to go and find an air saw or a grinder or something sharp and trim that hole into a more sensible shape with nice smooth edges, and then batter some fresh steel into that hole. I did start grinding the rest of the sound deadening underproof stuff off, or try to anyway, but it takes forever and makes loads of mess and is noisy, and it's too hot to be out here doing that. So I'll do that, the rest of that another day. I've taken enough off now not to catch fire when I'm welding, so that'll do for now. Yes, this is product placement. No, it's not very subtle at all. If Peter McKinnon can do it, why can't I? actually need to take this back to bare metal on the inside so I can get some welding done. I just had a crazy little injury which really highlights how important it is to use eye protection all the time when you're doing grinding and that kind of stuff, because this is one of the wire, I don't know what you call it, one of the wire strands from the wire brush, and it flew out, hit me in the cheek, and it's actually bleeding quite a lot. If I had not had eye protection on, that could have gone my eye, and that could have been like lost eyesight for the sake of you know, a bit of welding on a crappy old car. So my plan here is to tape the cardboard to the bottom and then draw a line around the inside, so I've got a nice template then, and hope I've got enough metal to make a new bit. That's not working. Get a reasonably accurate outline. Now this is going to be really hard to do, because this has got these indents pressed into it for strength, and it goes around a curve. So this is going to be a really hard piece of metal to shape into anything remotely resembling this old floor pan. Right, let's get all a bit Tony Hart and arts and craftsy making this thing. You'll notice I've already done arts and crafts with my hat. I had a damaged sticker that was all a bit crumpled in the bag, so I figured I'd stick it over the logo of whatever the hell this old cap is from. It's quite effective, and I might need to hot glue gun this on because it's crumpled at the top. That's why I couldn't sell it to anyone. That'd be a bit mean, wouldn't it? It goes a bit wonky. I'm going to cut this very much oversize on the metal. So I need a bit of metal that big to fix the hole. That's ridiculous, considering the hole was like that size when I started. Excellent. I hope the rest of the floor is better than this once I get this thing going. I've had this old bit of metal for years patching up cars, so we'll nearly finish it off. Now, cut this out. Now, because of all the curves and shapes that are involved in hammering this into roughly the right shape, I've given myself like an extra centimetre and a half all the way around, just so that as the thing stretches into shape, I can trim it off in the car, but I can't add bits to it, so give myself as much leeway as possible. Ow. Now the fun game of trying to make this flat bit of metal fit into this very curved bit of boot floor. Try to curve it and shape it into roughly the same kind of, very roughly the same kind of shape as this floor. Partly so I get a decent weld with good crisp edges, and partly so a spare wheel actually fits in here. Now I've got to get this shape into the floor, and I know this is not the correct way of doing it, but as all I've got is a few bits of wood and a hammer, it's the way it's going to have to happen. Well, it's kind of got a bit of profile in it. It's better than nothing, put it that way. Considering I really can't weld, this actually isn't looking too untidy. So what I think I'll do, I'll snip it just here, and then, using my plenishing hammer, just hammer, with a bit of wood to block that in there. Just as I was getting the swing of this thing, I thought the thing was jammed up yet again, but no, I'm out of wire. Great. And I promised I'd have this off the ramps and looking tidy again by this evening. Well, that's not going to happen. As it's about 5 o'clock, so the shops are shutting very soon, I'm going to have to call it quits with no more welding wire. I'm going to blatter everything with zinc primer so it doesn't go rusty overnight, because I'm not completely daft. Slightly daft, but not completely daft. Right, we have fresh wire, we're back in business. Even brought some more gas because I figured, more or less guaranteed, the moment you start welding, you're going to run out of something else. So, problem solved before I started. Forethought. Right. And this bit here, I made a slight error on. I trimmed it off because there's like a really thick panel on the back of this bit here, and I trimmed the corner off yesterday just to get this around this, but in fact I trimmed it off too small and I'm just welding the bit I cut off back on again. Oopsie. Well, that was fun. It's not the prettiest, but it's done. So I'm just going to grind it back so it looks vaguely presentable, whack a bit of filler over so it looks more presentable, and then smother it in under seal so no one knows any wiser. Well, this now looks an awful lot more presentable, and it's a pretty solid repair as well. I mean, I'm not going to say desirable, but certainly presentable. Where it's got zinc coating, a bit of filler to hide the edges, and that's where the old metal kind of runs out, and then a bit of hammerite so it's all rust proof. And once I've taken off the old Mercedes goop, I'll do the whole boot in thick under seal, and you'd be none the wiser that there's anything there, apart from you several thousand people who've watched this online, but don't tell anyone. Now, when I was reconnecting the battery when I finished welding, I discovered something quite unusual. Walk with me. Now, I'm no expert, but these two wires probably want to be connected. And maybe if that's only getting a fraction of the current it should be, it might not have enough to squirt as much petrol through as it should. So I've ordered a new one, it'll be here tomorrow, then we shall see. Well, bad news, it failed. Which isn't a massive surprise, but it's what it actually failed on that got me. Because although it did fail on emissions, which isn't a massive surprise, because it always smells a little bit smoky, but it runs all right. So I'm guessing another sensor has decided to go kaput on it, but that's going to be an issue because I can't do much about that without just changing every sensor. It might be a broken wire. I'm going to have to go over the car really thoroughly and see what I can do to locate that. It also had a track rod end fail, which I was quite surprised at, and a broken spring, which does actually explain why it makes such a lot of creaky, rattly noises. I thought it was just because the coilovers were horrifically harsh and very unpleasant. Turns out one of them is broken. So I'm going to have to try and find either a full set of 4 new suspension struts and coils, or a pair of gas coilovers for the front of this that are in better condition. I mean, it might be better off getting a full set of 4 springs all around the car, or springs and shocks, because this car is on coilovers. So I'm either going to have to replace like for like with coilovers, or I'm going to have to replace coilovers with separate springs and shocks as it was originally. I don't know. I'm going to have to do something, and if I can do it in the next week, that would be fantastic, because then I get a free retest. But I don't know what I'm going to do about the emissions in the next, 7 days, because I'm even finding the springs and shocks in the next 7 days. On the plus side, the Mercedes now has a boot floor, so that's a big positive. The Rover 2000, I've not brought that into this video, but I'm 99% certain the problem with that thing is that the engine mounts have collapsed. So I need to go and buy a pair of them. Hopefully that won't be too expensive. I didn't do it last week because there are basically 2 Rover P6 suppliers around. One was out of stock and the other was on holiday, so hopefully something this week can be done about that. And this thing I'm going to look into in great detail now. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little escapade, and please hit like and subscribe. Thanks, bye.